Alright, time to get the stream started. Turn on the camera here. How's everyone's new year going? It's day one of 2025. Gotta hit the ground running. Get to business here. All right, pull up some gdevelop. Make sure Twitch is operational. So 2 a.m. Lost in Code. Where are you at? Where are you located? I know you mentioned pounds earlier. Are you in England? UK, nice. Around which parts? And yep, new year, new goals. For a lot of people, that means revisiting the goals they set out and didn't accomplish in the previous year. So hopefully that's not you. Okay, near Bristol. Nice. I was out there a few years back. I just did like a quick little trip, drove from Scotland down to London. But I intend to go back sometime and see a little bit more. Your goal this year is to complete a larger game project. It's a good goal. And the good thing about it is like every year, well, every project you do just kind of compounds into the next one, because whether or not you use the exact same mechanics, you develop along with your games. So it's a good goal. I mean, 1 year ago from now, I didn't have this game, but I had some other smaller projects. And so, you know, I'm hoping that in a year from now, in the future, that, you know, I mean, I don't know exactly where I'll be, maybe on game number 2 or expanding this one, but, yeah. As you develop your projects, you develop yourself. There's got to be a bit of wisdom in there somewhere. Double check something here. So are you working early in the morning? You made a version of Minesweeper 5 times and got it down to half the code and assets. Nice. Yeah, like that's all super helpful. Reiterating and optimizing. That's something that I am... So as you watch my live streams, you're going to notice that I've got some not the most optimized event sheets here. It's not because I'm unaware of it, but it's because I intend to finish the game, as opposed to just reiterating on this project forever and then not releasing it. So Minesweepers seems small enough. You probably got away with that, and you could release it. In this case, I feel like I improve every month, and if I went back and tried to refactor my code every time that I realize there's an opportunity to, I'll just never get this done, right? Because I'm super part-time on this. I do this after work, and so my plan is to optimize it to where it's playable. It doesn't make the player angry, like, you know, terrible frames and all that, and then to just move on to game number 2. And game number 2 will be like, you know, 500% more optimized than this one. So that's kind of a you know, I've got to kill the baby a little bit. Not working due to health issues. Well, hopefully you're Hopefully it's not too serious, but I guess that means you don't have to get up super early, so glad you could hop on the stream. You set all the sprites you want to hide into a group and then hide that group at the beginning. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like a good approach. Sorry, just responding to a message here real quick. All right. Yeah, I hide quite a few things at the start as well. Like I mean, literally the very first set of events here, I have some hide actions. And again, I've added a few since then, but yeah, you definitely need to do that. I'll probably move some of those into a group. I've created groups. I have like a UI bucket, you know, a towers bucket, an enemies bucket, that kind of thing. So as I move forward, I clean up a little bit as I go. Oh man, you lost some vision. Yeah, it sounds pretty brutal. Sorry you're losing your vision and your health, but yeah, maybe you can fuel that into your passion projects. Mental health issues are rough too. Like, they can really sap the joy out of things that you would otherwise enjoy. So I get that. It's really rough. Let me see here. Oops. Not trying to join the Discord voice. I'm trying to go back to here. Yeah, yeah. It's you know, a door closed and a window opened or something like that, right? So, how long have you been making games? I know you said you did Minesweeper 5 times and you have a little list of other projects as well. Let me see here. Alright, so this is you. How did you fix the collision and damage with the objects? I just watched my stream where I got a bit lost on it. Yeah, to be honest, I don't remember which specific bugs. Yeah, like I said, about a year ago. So the collision and the damage with the objects, there were a couple of issues going on. So my enemies are made up of 2 parts. One is a very simple sprite, which is hidden. And then the other, a lot of the enemies are made up of the visual part of the enemy is a particle emitter, just because it looks kind of cool, kind of amorphous, you know, rather than using a sprite animation. It's just a particle emitter. But you can't do a lot of 2D physics on a particle emitter. You can only do some. So, for example, collision doesn't work very well with the particles emitter. So I had some bugs where I was trying to sync up the underlying, let me just show you what I'm talking about. So if I don't hide, we go down to an enemy creation. If I don't hide the underlying sprite, so let's summon, like, let's see, one of these basic ones. Let's see, I set the opacity. Okay, so this should be a good example. Let's change the enemy to just like the basic medium enemy. And let's spawn those guys in. So, okay, well, these are actually my frozen enemies, but if you can see clearly enough, they are two parts. Let's see if I can zoom this in a little bit for you real quick. So that red circle is the actual collision. It's actually going to be a square, not a circle, but it's a square collision around that circle. And that's what a lot of the 2D physics are acting upon. And so I needed to make sure that any projectiles are looking for that particular sprite object, not the actual particle emitter that we see. So that's a big part of what I was dealing with earlier. And then I ran into about 1.5 million other bugs, and I don't remember exactly which ones they were at which time, but I mean, that's a big part of setting those guys up. Let me actually undo this. And I'm going to close this book. Apply damage on collision. Yeah. It did it one time or infinite times. So it, and to be honest, Lost in Code, it depends on which projectile I was using at the time too, because I've changed those. So I can't really tell you exactly what I specifically fixed, but I do know that I did play around with how many times I would do a for each object event. And then I also needed to make sure I did the correct checks in my conditions. So those have been like some of the largest areas for improvement when it came to damaging the enemies and getting them to work properly. And one of the latest updates to that has been the flamethrower. So I needed to make sure that flamethrowers could overlap damage and stack damage on the enemies, which is this right here. So what I have here is when there's a flamethrower tower, and actually hold on, let me go back and change this enemy thing. Let's see, let's do number 2. If your character doesn't do something, make it clear. Yeah, words of wisdom, Blaze. Words of wisdom. It was a collision with the enemy in the main base. Gotcha. For collision with the enemy in the main base, we can delve into that as well. And this has been a project right here, is getting the flamethrowers to overlap. So I did a for each enemy, and then for each enemy in range, So it's basically like a nested if statement, essentially, in order to get the damage applying. And then, so let me search for end. All I've done for that part of it, lost in code, was whenever the enemies are in collision with the end, I set the Boolean value of the end, which is the base, to the Boolean value of the enemy's object to true. And then if that Boolean is true, then I do a few things like apply the damage and delete the enemy. So previously, I think I was doing like if enemies are in collision with the end, I would like perform all of those actions right here in that event line, and that doesn't work out very well. Using the Boolean toggle works much better. Little Caesars. I had Little Caesars this week as well. Pepperoni, and I had some of those little mini pies that they make. Those little pizza pies. Messing up the bed sheet in Blender. Well, that sounds fun. Sounds like loads of fun. So, which of these games... Let's see, here's a kinda Minesweeper game. So you can set your grid size, bomb count. Helpful start. Start with one empty spot. Oof. Did you see that? I just bombed out 2 times in a row. 0 for 2. Interesting. So the magnifying glass, you get some clues. So 3, 1, 2, 1, 2 right there. This has 2. Gotcha, yeah. Reading the description would help. Minesweeper style game, but numbers don't tell you about diagonal blocks, which was kind of what I was figuring out the hard way there. While on a grid, you can pinch to zoom and reset by pressing the button in the top right corner. The spyglass will mark any bombs in a 3x3 area one-time use. Nice. All right, let's go with the high and try this one more time. See if I can get a start here at least. There we go. And then, all right, so 3x3. So does that mean that all of these are safe? Okay. So 1 touching there. So this one should be safe, but I don't know about the diagonal one. Helpful start added for the wife. Good call. You gotta keep that marriage in mind when you make your games. All right, so this 2... I'm thinking this one right here is a bomb. If diagonals are not... me double check here. Numbers don't tell you about diagonal blocks. So I'm thinking that might be one. Empty square with no number means it's not touching a bomb. Okay. Good to know. So that one must be a bomb. And this one must be safe. Seems like there are some very unknowns here. If basically diagonals are unknown, right? So am I supposed to guess, for example, on this one right here? I would say it's much harder. Seems like I would have to purely guess on something like this, unless I can figure it out somewhere else. Yeah, I probably shouldn't have used the magnifying glass at the start. Alright, we're going to throw caution to the wind here. I know that at least one of these two is a bomb. This one has two bombs. One is there, so I know that this one's a bomb. It's a lot of bombs altogether. I'm going to click on it and see what happens. Oh, wow. The whole row was bombs. Bad luck. Bad luck. Oh, you can press space to see the bombs. Oh. Dev hacks. Nice. Let's go 13 by 13 Pro. Dude, that looks rough. Helpful start. Okay, so those would be bombs. This one's safe. That one's safe. That one's safe. And then this one is safe. Boom. Nice. Nice and simple. Straight to the point. Nice little micro game. I'll have to check these out too. They look kind of cool. Nice work, man. Let's see. I've done a couple things since the last stream here that I was working on, and Pop the Lock was fun. Nice. I'll have to check it out. Pocket Dungeon just caught your attention. Yeah, looks fun. It has a few plays too. 85 plays. Hey, what's going on, some guy? How you doing this evening? How's your new year starting out? Pocket Dungeon is for on-the-go game. Nice. New year starting out great. Glad to hear it. Mine is as well. Sitting here in good company. This looks pretty cool. I'm going to come back to this because I want to do a little dev tonight, but I'm going to come back to this. That looks fun. Lost in Code. But I've added a couple things since my last stream here. I've added a dev tool here where I can adjust the current light value just for testing the game out. So as the darkness increases or as the light decreases, the darkness value increases, and it increases on a curve, so it's exponential. And it's this value right here. And based on that value, other stats about the enemies will change, such as quantity and speed. So if I'm all the way down to only 200 light, then instead of only 5 enemies spawning next wave, I'm going to have 25 enemies spawning, right? Let's say we decrease that further. A darkness value of 13 will increase our enemies spawn from 5 to 35. So that's a factor of 7. And if I drag this all the way to 1, which would be highly unlikely but still possible in the game, that's a darkness value of 2000, which is a multiply. It's the product would be a factor of 1,000. So 5,000 enemies would spawn. And of course you would die. You created a game and it's been live, and 854 people are still playing it. Which game, some guy? Can you drop the... Are you in the Discord? Can you drop it in the Discord? I'm not sure if the YouTube chat lets you do that. I've had troubles with the YouTube chat, even though I told it to allow links. But share it if you can. Okay, I'm going to change one thing here. It's in Rec Room called AI Practice Labs. Sweet. Yeah, Lost in Code is, it's 2 a.m. It's past 2 a.m. where he is, so depending on where you are, he might be in a different time zone. The art of the game has changed a lot from the devlog you're watching. Yeah, it's changed quite a bit, actually. And it's not necessarily all final, but I think I'm moving away from using structures like this. So I might replace this image, actually. I think I'm moving away from these structures because they're not really going to take a part in the game. I think instead it's going to be more like just a beacon of light. Something kind of simplistic. Otherwise the user would expect to interact with structures like that. And that's just not really what the game is about. And Blaze made this little splash screen for us. All right, so, oh yeah, I wanted to change which enemies spawn on this next wave. The last beacon of humanity. Some guy, do you, how do you make your graphics? Your art assets. All right, let's try this. And yeah, you make them on your PC. Do you do 3D assets? And so this is something that I've updated even since the last stream. I added this list of modifiers. And so here I've got something to show y'all that I haven't, this is pretty fresh. And so it's on a white screen, so flash warning. But this is a new system I'm going to put in. And so when you play a level and you kill an enemy, they have a chance to drop an object. And whenever you pick up that object and you go back outside of the scene, so you have your object as a loot, you can then take those and customize them and basically customize your next map by adding risk reward systems. So like you can increase your loot drop rate, but at the cost of increasing, for example, enemy movement speed, minus 20% light generated, and so on. And then what you do is you take those and you plug it into the next level that you play. So for example, if you're going to go back into level 4 and you have a matching level 4 item that you've customized, you can plug that in and play that level with higher risk, higher reward. So that's something I'm putting in. It's brand new. And that will stack with the existing difficulty scaling. So the player has a lot more control over how to manage the risk reward system. So for example, these are some of the global stats that you might encounter: loot frequency, loot rarity, the light start value, light regeneration rate, darkness resistance, and then things like on the enemies themselves, like enemy movement speed, enemy elemental resistances, the damage you take whenever an enemy hits your base, the cost of the towers, and so on. And whenever the player starts a level with the associated map modifiers, the global variables are updated and then plugged into the scene wherever they're used in the scene. So for example, the light start value, your currency value, would obviously be noticed at the very start of the scene. Other times it would be during object creations, like whenever the enemies spawn, or miscellaneous events like an enemy hitting your base. And then you would spend that map object that would be deleted. So it serves as both a loot object and then also a customization element. Some guy usually have to wire code and do some modeling. Yeah. Honestly, I haven't played around with Rec Room a lot, but it sounds pretty cool. Well, you have like a modifier to speed up burning enemy and such. Yes. Well, even the current enemies that are spawning right now for testing out some of these ideas, they will currently speed up based on this darkness value. So that's a different system I have. And if I pull up my OneNote here, where is it? All right, so here's some math. And it's basically just an exponential function. So based on the darkness value, this is their health, but the speed is going to be similar, but not quite as extreme for the speed. But for the health, they have a base value for their health, right? And then that, which is the original health value, OHV. But when they spawn, they get a new health value, which is based on this number here. So it's going to be the original health. Let's say they were going to spawn with 10 HP. That's multiplied by the darkness value plus the current wave. So the later the wave, the more challenging, squared. And so that is what we're seeing here. So now, let's say it's pretty dark. I spawn in a wave. They're moving pretty quickly. So that's faster than normal right there. Now these guys, let me see. Actually, I think it broke because I'm trying to demonstrate it. So of course it broke. They're supposed to have a heck of a lot more HP as well. They should have, let's see, darkness value of 8. Wave 2. So if we did that, this would show us 8, 2, put all that in parentheses here, and then divide that by 100. So that would give us well, maybe that is accurate. Maybe we just need a higher wave. All right. Good luck on your game's newest update. Some guy, thanks for hopping on the stream. Good luck. Let's see if I call these guys in. There we go. So we're getting a little more health now. Then if I really increase the darkness value, we're going to see even more health there. So if I pull up their stats, you can see the health value is going up from 10, so it's now at 34. So that's part of the kind of basic scaling going on before the player ever implements their little custom map options. And then the speed, as you can see, that's kind of a ridiculous speed, and it gets faster from there. So now we've got, you know, if I crank the light all the way to maximum, or rather to minimum, which would be maximum darkness, now we have health, which is literally off the chart. So this game is going to be intense. You can outscale the difficulty to the point where you've bricked a map and you have to start over. So high risk, high reward. Yeah, appreciate it, Lost in Code. And if you're watching those, I appreciate your patience, because you're going to watch me struggle a lot, and I figured out a lot of things along the way. Not everything I figured out live, so you're going to need to have some patience if you're going to watch those, but I appreciate you watching them. And yeah, the game has changed a lot, so it's still messy, but it's nearing a stable state, and I'm really excited about it. And tower defense games are kind of a smaller genre of game that I've always been passionate about, so I'm happy to finally make one. Okay. I also put in a file save system here, which is actually part of what's on the left here. And I got it working properly. So right now, these are the current modifiers, which are 0. But if I load, let me go to the event sheet here. Right here. So currently they're set to the global variables. And it's getting the global variables not from the game engine. So the engine, if I go to my globals, these have values in the hundreds, 100, 200, 300, right here. But you can see that these values are 0. That's because they're set to 0 from some file. So if I load, rather if I clear, I've loaded these now, so the game can update those variables. And then what I could do is I could save those to the file, and then I could reload those global variables. So that's going to be how that player difficulty customization happens. Yeah, don't look at the top left number. It will give you nightmares. That is the FPS. And in fact, I did something today that kind of broke the FPS, so I need to hunt that down. Yo, what's up, Blaze? UO. How did I set the FPS to display? Let me see here. I think I did a... So there's a built-in function. It's right here. It is just literally, I have a text object, and I set the text object to this. So I do string and round, but what you're looking for is just simply FPS : FPS close parentheses. So it's built into the game engine. Let me see here if it's an extension. So get the FPS extension, and then that's the way you'll call it. And yes, I have a couple of extensions. Yeah, it's good to know, because every now and then I was kind of crashing the game, and I didn't know if it was frame related or not. So it's nice to have. All right, then see what I wanted to do now. Let me see if the loot drop is working as originally designed. So right now, every single enemy has a 100% chance to drop a scroll loot object. Let me set up a couple of towers here and kill some enemies and see if they're all dropping the loot object. Well, if I can kill them fast enough. I need more light. There we go. Okay, they are all dropping it, so I can collect those up. But I want to change it to where there's a difference in the way that they drop. Yeah, particles can be an FPS killer. And I've been able to maintain 50 to 60 FPS for most of the game, other than whatever it is that I've just done to kind of ruin it. But yeah, I kill any particle emitters the moment I don't need them. And large sprites seem to be extremely expensive as well. And so my background, well, I was concerned about the background, but the fact that I'm not animating it seems to help. But it is a really big image. And so technically speaking, chopping that up into smaller ones, especially if it were like a zoomed in kind of game like this, where you're moving around in a map, then I would want to optimize it by chopping it into pieces and adding them in as needed. But that doesn't seem to apply since I'm just showing the whole screen all at once anyway. Yeah, previously in my loop video, I think it's coming up, you might have already watched it, I add some loot light objects, which I might put back in. They're still here somewhere. I took them out for a while. I did change it to where you can just mouse over them. I just haven't gotten back around to it. So I think that's a great idea. And I have a couple of quality of life updates to make like that, along with like selecting multiple towers at the same time. Because the other night I was trying to do some test where I had like 15 towers out at the same time, and then manually updating each one. I realized it was a pain point. So let me go to the, let's see, scroll. I'm going to create a sub event here. I'm going to move these into a couple different things. Yep, definitely on the list. Good call, though. I mean, it's good that you're noticing that, because obviously in your own games, you want to look for quality of life as well. Those are things that players would notice that maybe a dev might not. So right now I have a 100% chance to create the loot, so I'm going to change this now. And I just need like a really basic equation. So let's do like maybe a local variable. And we'll call it, I'll call it local loot drop modifier. That'll be a number. Then we will assign it a thing. Let me see, how do I assign the local variable? Forgot how to do this part. Will the in-game music be chill vibes or intense and fast? Good question. It might be a combination of both. Haven't actually nailed down the specific tone that I want for that. I think that in general, the game is going to be more slow-paced and maybe a little bit creepy. I think that the vibes I want are dark and creepy. So if you imagine a basically like a novice mage, or you know, a very junior person being kind of left out in the wilderness to defend against basically a demonic darkness, there would be like a lot of nature sounds, but it'd be kind of silent. The way that you don't really hear a skeleton, right? Other than maybe the clank of the bones. The darkness is kind of similar in my mind. It might be kind of wispy sounds, but it wouldn't be like the growling of like a beast, right? So I want it to be more of like a suspenseful kind of creepiness. So with that in mind, I'm thinking more slow-paced overall, but there may be a way for me to add something to kind of get the heart rate going up as well. So I'll need to explore that option once I get there. It's a good question. I'm going to change a variable value. Here it is, local loot drop mod. We're going to assign that a random, let me think. Random and range. And obviously from 0 to, say, 100. So there'd be a 1% chance to drop this thing. Level 1 wizard and woods with orc sounds all around. Yeah, kind of. Except so instead of orcs, though, I've got a more abstract kind of enemy here. But whatever they sound like, that's kind of what it would be. And yeah, if there's a boss fight for sure, that would be a good point at which to escalate the music to something more fast-paced. Rolling out 1, you see nothing. Yeah, so I'm gonna have boss-like enemies as well. So, you know, if those come up on, excuse me, if those come up on the screen, definitely that'd be a good opportunity to switch soundtracks or maybe add an overlapping soundtrack, something like that. And a lot of that game feel, like I want to nail down the mechanics, because if those don't work, there's no point in investing in the art and music. Especially while I don't have the mechanics nailed down. But once I roll around to it, the way I work is it's going to be like I've got an awesome cake baked out of the oven. And as soon as that cake is baked, then I'm just going to lather it in all the frosting and sprinkles. And in fact, I've started to do some of that as well. I hired an artist, and this was kind of like a Christmas present to myself. I hired an artist out of Poland, and she made this background for me as concept art. So this is going to be one out of a couple of pieces I have for the game, and I'm pretty excited about it. You'll probably see these whenever it hits the Steam page. So you've got this like abstract darkness kind of climbing up and crumbling the towers, and the towers are, you know, generating attacks to fire back and shooting beams and that kind of thing. If the player's about to die, there should be a heartbeat sound effect. Yeah, it's not a bad idea. Yeah, the heartbeat sound effect. What is it about hearing a heartbeat that makes your own heart beat faster? I don't understand it, but it works. Or sound like an eerie sound like a drone. Sound like drone, yeah, for sure. And yeah, Blaze, this is darkness climbing up, so it's kind of like enveloping the land here. And I'll even show y'all this. I'll give you this. Let me pull up the website. She has some other work in progress that I'll let y'all see. See if I can find it. Later this year, we're gonna work on this other one. All right, so here's this. Let me download. Let's see. Here we go. So this is... This other one is a second image. It's not an iteration of the one on screen. This is going to be a second one, which is more landscape. And this is rough draft. But it's going to show more like this darkness creeping across the land. She put in what might be considered like eyes or something in there. You can't really quite tell what it is. And it's spreading across the land, kind of like a plague. And of course it's going to go out toward the towers, but I'm going to add some other features to it, like maybe you see like, you know, the frozen mountains in the back, and maybe there's the volcanic mountain back there. Show some of the biomes, that kind of thing. But super rough draft, and of course I'll see what she wants to do as well, because I'm heavily, well, she's only a contractor, but I'm heavily considering her opinions, because I value her opinions. Yeah, it's totally taking over. You literally found it in your dreams. You found what in your dreams? Little Caesars? Alright, I'm adding a loot drop chance here. You had a dream, and at the end there was something like heartbeat mod, and then you woke up. Nice. Yeah, do y'all dream about your code or your projects that you work on? That was for a Minecraft mod? Nice. If I work too late and too long, I dream about the work I'm doing, and I kind of hate it. But sometimes it's valuable because I come up with solutions in my sleep. Because the brain is always trying to solve problems. Which, interestingly, is why we can't sleep sometimes, because the brain is so busy thinking about problems. And you're sitting there telling your brain, shut up, I'm trying to sleep. Because it's efficient like that. So what we're going to do is for the loot mod drop rate, sorry, for the loot drop rate, we're going to base it on a chance from 0 to 100, which, let me see, I think that's inclusive, so technically that should probably be like 0 to 99. So 1 in 100 chance, and then... But then I think what we're going to do is add. Of course, later I'll break it down into like rare loot versus regular loot. But right now I don't have rare loot. So let's do random in range 0 to 99. And then we'll say something like... Let's give it like a... All right, let's do a subcondition here. So we'll say a variable value if this is let's say greater than or equal to, let's say 80, then it will drop the loot. Just, you know, just to get this party started. But what we'll do is we'll change this to a random in range 0 to 99, and then we'll add, there's a global structure, or what I call it, global underscore mm structure. And this array is holding my other global variables for the modifiers. We'll do, again, glb mm loot frequency percent, which I did percent. I think it's actually going to be an additive. So let's change that as well. Go back to the globals here. Not always sure how you're going to do something when you create the variable, but now I think I want it to be an addition and not a percentage. So loot frequency add, apply. Okay, and then so 0 to 99 plus whatever this number is. And so, for example, if we run this, let's see what that number is. Load. We need to clear it. Loot frequency bonus is 60, so that's going to be a pretty big number. Realistically, that would be like in the single digits. You know, I tried daydreaming at work. I work right here on my desk, but when I work remotely, I daydream to come up with ideas for work, and for some reason my bosses don't like that. I can't imagine why. Sleepwalking is crazy. Like, people who do that, they do some crazy things. I have some family members who do that. Walks into a guy talking in code. Alright, let's do this then. Let's set the global variable. Let me go back up here. Because again, realistically, you're probably going to be adding single digits to your loop modifier. So the loop frequency would be set to that. And then right here, I've told it to add 60. Let's just have it add like 5. Nothing too crazy. And yeah, let's run that. Let's see if we get... I'm going to run this along with the console. And let's take a look at some of the values. I think. Let me go back down. Hold on a second. Loot. Actually, rather looks for scroll. Okay, right here. Does the console show us the local variables? What's going on, Dark Silence? How's your start to the new year going? Fantastic, I hope. We're just hanging out here in chat and talking some game dev shop here. Thanks for hopping on. And I'm hunting down a local variable. It's going so-so. Oh, well, what would make it better? Besides money, because I can't offer you that. Alright, so if I look at my mods here, so I want to clear those. The loot frequency bonus is now 5, which means we have a number between 0 and 99 plus 5 for the loot drop rate. So let's see, let's add some towers to kill stuff. I want the flamethrower towers because of the area of effect. Let me add a lot of light though. And let's just kill like 10 enemies. There we go. They're dying. And we only got 2 out of 10 to drop. So that's potentially really good odds, to be honest. Yeah, like that one, I don't think they dropped any. If I collect those, that's just 2. Because I think it's only about 1 in 100. Actually, what would it be? 1 in 5-ish should drop a loot object. So that was 3 waves. That seems about right. So we've gotten 5 loots out of however many enemies that was. 10, 20, 30. So that's 1 in 6. That's about right. I think we got 1 in 6 results out of a what should be a 1 in 5 chance. Thinking of getting into game design, so that you'd pop in and watch. Awesome, yeah. What interests you in game design? Are you interested in like actually making your own games, or are you an artist, or are you a programmer? Lots of ways to get started, whatever you prefer and whatever your kind of area is. I think everyone here in my little community does some sort of projects, game-related projects in one form or fashion. But we're all just kind of the blind leading the blind here. Well, yeah, if you have ideas you want to try, that's perfect. That's what we did. In fact, we were just talking about this. Lost in Code and Blaze and I, we were talking about whether you do like some jams or you challenge yourself to do like just make something in 24 hours, or I did some 72-hour game jams, and you just try out some things that you're not totally committed to. Obviously you have to like learn the software, whatever you're using, but once you have a decent enough grasp on it, you just like challenge yourself to do something, even if there's a chance it's going to be complete crap, just to do something. And no matter what happens at the end of it, you're going to have learned quite a bit, and then you can roll that into your next idea. So Lost in Code said he just made some Minesweeper games. Here we go. Here's his little gdevelop games, and so he did like 5 versions of Minesweeper, and he put one of them up on a public site here. So he started from 1 and he reiterated on it 5 times. So I don't know if this is your 5th iteration Lost in Code, but this one is super easy to learn. This is gdevelop, which is free. You don't even have to download anything. I'll show you. So if you go to gdevelop, if you just type in gdevelop in Google, you're gonna see this. And from here, you go to start creating your game, and it's gonna pop open the game engine in browser. And then you have the option to download it for free if you want, which is what I do. But it's all web-based, and it uses visual scripting, which is this stuff here. So you don't have to be a hardcore programmer either. You don't have to know code per se. You just need to think about things logically. So it's super easy. For example, at the very beginning of the scene, it says at the beginning of the scene, right? And then do these things. Web-based is cloud only, so a lot of the back end of this engine is cloud-based. So it's fully backed up. You're not going to lose your work very easily. There are local saves, but it's heavily cloud. It's got a JavaScript backend, but you don't have to know JavaScript to use it. And so, for example, with the visual scripting system here, which is called events, like here's an example right here. If the button save scene is clicked, then save this stuff, right? So it's very easy to read. It's not complex to read and understand. And the more you use it, the more you know what to look for. So like right here, I've got a timer. If this timer reaches 2 seconds, then delete this thing. So anyone can look at this and get a pretty good idea of what's happening. It's very beginner friendly, and I've got a couple of videos out. Feel free to check them out, but you can ask questions here as well all the time. I moved from using, well, really just like raw Java myself in a more basic engine to dabbling in Unreal, and then I switched over to this one because it's so easy to get it up and running really quickly. So I like it a lot, especially for 2D. For 3D, it offers 3D support. Not the best engine yet for 3D, but for 2D, it's really great. And it does offer multiplayer. But, if you're just starting out, I'd recommend doing a 2D single-player game. And also another nice little thing is high scores are really easy to implement. So if I go to... let me see here. If I can find my page. I don't even know if I can. So if I go to my games here, there are high score systems built in. Oh yeah, you can use shadows and atmosphere for sure. Totally. And I have a tutorial on making this game, but actually, hold on. One second. I'm going to show you the high score system. Which is nice because you can have a single player game with high scores, which makes it a little bit multiplayer because they compete for the high score, right? So if I die here, hold on, let me die. Continue, submit score. And so not a lot of people played it, but you can see there's a public leaderboard here. And so it's just a couple of events to get this stood up. You don't have to know like a whole lot of stuff to make these things happen in gdevelop, which is really awesome. And so, yeah, you're talking about a pixel art game with shadows and atmosphere. If like I wanted to add, let's say I've got I'll tell you what, let's just grab a pixel art from the library here, add an animation, apply, and then from here what I would do is I go into swap assets, and there's a store here. Yes, you can show the top players in the game as well. There's got to be a way to do that. It's based on a couple of things. So I know to show the top players, you can tell the excuse me, you can tell the leaderboard to show the top players. If you're wanting to show it somewhere else in the game, there's probably a way to do that. All you need to do is like transfer that high score based on the user ID, I think it uses, and you could probably transfer that to like a global variable and store it. There's got to be a way. I haven't done that. But if I was going to add like a pixel art, like this scroll here, if I wanted to drag that into my world here, scale it up a little bit. I did do an announcement in the Discord, actually. Yeah, I don't know. It's right here. So they have no excuses. So anyway, here's my scroll. And let's say I want to add like shadows or something to it. I can go in here to the object, and I've got multiple animations, but if I want to add an effect, there are a lot of built-in 2D effects. So you can do like outlines, shadows, tilt shift, shockwave, bloom, and basically a lot of different things. So maybe I want that one to glow. Maybe this is a loot object and it dropped. All I need to do is select a built-in effect and add it and hit apply. And then next time I run the game, anytime one of these spawns, it's going to have that effect applied. So now it's got a little bit of a glow to it, right? Super simple stuff. It's pretty intuitive. And you can make entire games without using your own art if you want to. There's a pretty good selection of stuff already in the engine. But again, I mean, you can just try it out literally right now for free. No downloads and no commitments. I like it. And we were working on loot drop rates. So let's see here. Which I think it's working now. So can you add a shadow border to the screen that closes in? A shadow border that closes in. Yeah, there's probably lots of different ways to do that. Let me think. Like I can think of several ways to do that. Just need to play around with stuff to get the effect you want. Exactly. So let's say I have my background sprite here. Let me go up to it. The ground image effects. Do we have, let's see here. What I'm thinking of is you add, are you talking about like a silhouette basically, like darkness around the whole frame that's closing in? Is that kind of what you're talking about? Because I'm thinking add a sprite object and then scaling it with some opacity. Exactly, Lost in Code, that's what I'm thinking. So if you take, like, so this is 12, this is, let's do a little thought exercise here. So this would be a silhouette, which I cannot spell, silhouette, and create that. There's a little in-engine extension for this. So I would want a 1280 by 720, which is the size of my screen. Something like that. And 720 resize. And then if we did something like, let me know if you have any other ideas. I'm just playing around here at the moment. Take this for starters. Apply. So I could drag that out. Maybe I should change my background color for this too. Oh, where I put it. Right here. Okay, background color. Let's change it to a gray so I can see my silhouette. Close the group objects panel here. Maybe something like take this silhouette and then change the opacity. You can actually change the opacity here. So maybe that's only like 50% or something, 60%. So you can still see some of the game. Preview that. So you want to make a game about depression and anxiety. You play as a girl going about a normal day, but the more her mental health is affected, the screen closes in with a black fog. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I like the concept, and I've seen something that tried to address that concept before. Can't remember what it was, probably in a game jam, but that's interesting. But yeah, you could definitely find something to that effect. What I would do, just off the top of my head, is something like this, where you have, and of course I have this light. So you can add a silhouette for sure, and you could do things to change the sprite. This was just an oval I drew real quick, right? But you can make it more or less see-through, and then you can change the scale so that the amount of circle that's visible changes. This was 2 seconds, but if you spent an hour on it, you could get something that looks like what you're going for. So if I wanted to like have that scale in, let's see, we could do something else like that too. Yeah. So if I edited this, maybe even made it like a larger one. Something here. Now, why did I do that? That was stupid. I need 1280 times, let's say 3. So 3840. I don't even know if I can go that big. And then 2160. Let's resize the content and maintain the ratio and resize. That might be too big. Yeah, let's cancel that. Yeah, just get an image you're happy with. We could definitely play around with that. And then what you would do though is, for this example, I'll show you. Let's make it. Let's make it more closed in. That was terrible. Maybe a little bit more like this. And do the blackness and save that. Apply. And then what I would do from there is maybe change the scale. So let's say, thinking of like a dark smoke reaching out type feel with noise and getting louder. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, no worries. I like that idea. And so what did I call that thingy? I called it silhouette, which I couldn't spell, I'm sure. And no worries, happy to have these discussions. And again, I would spend some more time really trying to narrow this down. But you could take the scale, for example. So you can see that it's immediately that size. If I were to start the game, that's what you would see. But if I were to scale it, you would see more or less of the whole, so to speak. So let's say over time it changes in size. Let's start with, let's go right here. Let's do a timer. Yeah, appreciate it. I'll get right back to the game here. But what I would do to play around with this is like, let's say if you had a timer and let's say like every 2 seconds. Yeah, you could use pressed keys. That would work as well. Tell you what, yeah, let's try that. So if you were to add a new object, you would do. Tell you what about a slider? We'll call it the focus slider. And it'll say focus. So if I drag that out here. And put that on the UI layer. And then what we'll say is, so instead of that timer thing, let's do we're gonna take this. Gonna do another slider right here. So if the focus slider is being dragged, then we will say the silhouette scale is set to the focus slider dot value which is going to be pretty nuts, I think. So let me adjust that slider a little bit as well. Yeah, I'll want to remove it after. My players are going to be like, what the hell is this? Although it would almost work for my game because I'm also dealing with darkness, just a different iteration of darkness. We want the initial value to be 1. The minimum value can be, let's see, maybe like point. We don't actually want it to get too small for this example, but something like 0.8 to actually, let's try anywhere from 1 to 5 and see how that works. We can do a shadow. Apply, let's just see what happens here. Oh, I need to center it. All right, let me go into the silhouette where I put that. Drag that down here. If I edit the points, let's try putting the origin somewhere in the center. So the center needs to be, I mean, I guess my vision is actually not on the center, but it's close enough. This stream staying on your channel. Yeah, it's going up on the channel. Along with all my bugs and flaws. Let's see if this scales properly from the center. Hopefully it does. Blaze is saying make it a debug thing. Yeah, could definitely do that. There we go. So now it's scaling from the center. So as you can see, I can make it bigger so you have more focus. Let me make the light in the background brighter as well so you can see this better. So you could do something like this. This is extremely rudimentary. I just whipped it up on stream here, but you could do something like this and make it look better, change the opacity, make it less of a pure oval, make it look more shadowy, smoky like you're saying. You could add more particles, like I have these snowy particle things in the background. You could do things like that, add smoke to it, smoke and mirrors, all sorts of options. So maybe as like your character's focus diminishes, the scale here decreases, so you lose sight around the periphery. Something like that. I'll be right back. yeah, I'll be right back. I'm helping a friend. She's really under the weather right now, so I have reappeared. I'm gonna disappear for a second, and then I'll reappear again. Yep, you're correct about the D&D. All right, back again. Let's see here, what I miss here. Yeah, I've gone like tech support. That's pretty accurate. Man, depending on which tech support you call, that can be a while. I don't think I've reached out to EA tech support either. You get one response and then they ghost you. Man, oh man. All right, well, we will go ahead and remove these objects. I don't need them now. And remove the event. And where we left off was the loot dropping. Also, what is my... Let me see something here. Okay. He is back. See, we'll just do a few more minutes here. But let's see, what day is this too? Should be streaming tomorrow as well, because tomorrow is the normal stream day. But what I'm going to do is just finish up. I want to put a text object to show maybe the current drop rate. So I'm going to add, because I have a text object to show the text modifier. I want one to show the current drop rate. So let's do... Let's go up here to the UI objects, text objects. Let's duplicate one of these, call it text. We'll call it drop. Chance, I suppose. We want it to say, well, it can just be null until we fill it out. Oops. Welcome back, Lost in Code. All right, so for this, we want to update that one in, let's say every, It should only need to be modified at the start of the level, to be honest. But let's modify it. Yeah, we'll just do it here. So text loot. Oops. Where is it? Text. Oh, there it is. Drop chance. The text will be assigned. We'll just say loot chance. Oh, let me see here. What are we working with? It'll be... You know, I guess we don't know exactly. It would be... It's actually decided... Well, the actual loot is decided on each enemy kill. But the overall odds right now are 4 out of 5. And oops, and that's determined. Like, I don't want to hard code this in there. If I'm hard coding it, there's no point in showing it. Tell you what, since... Oh yeah, the checkpoints. In fact, I saw the checkpoints in the tutorial for a tower defense game in gdevelop. And that's not a bad idea if you want them to go exactly from A to B. But yeah, I like having the options to really customize it. Do you think the enemies are a bit too fast? Also make the toxic swamp a bit smaller, feels big. They're probably a little too fast, to be honest. And that's something I'm going to fine tune as well. It depends on the enemy type, and it also depends on the darkness level. So, like right now, that's the basic speed of that particular enemy. But if I spawn like the fire guys, which I know Lost in Code was asking about, let's try looking at the fire guys. They move really fast, but they have a small health pool. So let's try those. And yeah, I can make the toxic pool smaller as well. Let's see, the fire is shield, ice. I haven't used the fire guys in forever. I think I need to actually add a line here for them. Large, ice, shield, toxic. Yeah, so I need to actually add a line in for them. Let me do that. This will be 8. I'll do this. I needed to do this anyway. And this will probably be the last thing for tonight. How far do you think they can path, like a longer twisting path? They can do twisting paths, and I have a level where they do that. In fact, you'll see that in one of the later streams. I think it's not perfectly set up at the moment for me to show you. I would have to tweak a few dials. So let me just do one thing at a time, but later on you'll see I ran into issues with pathing. And part of the issue was based on, let me think here, was it, so the behavior, so for the pathfinding behavior, I used a different cell width, and I was thinking a smaller cell width would help, but it actually has them explore even more options, and then it got like, I think it stopped looking because it looked for too many different options. So I think I ended up with going with a larger cell width for the pathfinding option, like all the way up to 20, I think, and it worked better. So I think it was for the map that looks like, let me see here, 0, 1. This one is an example. So let me see, that's, I had a lot of trouble with this particular map, and there's a stream I did where I did not figure it out, and then later I did figure it out. And again, I think it came down to how many different routes that they were looking for. That was the biggest problem. So, but for now, let me add in this fire enemy here. It's called enemy fire, and then enemy backer fire. I needed to do this anyway, so why not do it now? Okay, do that. Then we need like so. Just do a lot of copy and paste here. which I know there are other ways to do this using external events and such. And that gets back to one of the points I made earlier where, yes, I could go back and refactor my entire game over and over and over. But I think I just want to get this thing across the finish line, and then maybe I'll just make a new game. You had a few that time they just passed through an object instead of around it, even if there was a path. Did you set the object as an impassable barrier? Like the wall? Did you set the wall as an impassable barrier? Original health value, new health value. I need to add some values to this of the backer. Oh, you did. That's pretty odd. Did you also try... So, for example, let me see here. Here's what I'm doing. This is behind the scenes. So for this particular level, that's actually not the right one. Where is it? This level. This is what it looks like. It was too long and the default pathfinding is not the best. Okay. Yeah, that's kind of what I was struggling with. And you'll see on one of my streams, this is what I had trouble with. Spawning them up here, and then they need to go all the way around. So at first it worked, and then later it didn't, and then at the end it worked again. So it's a troublesome area, and I don't have it fully figured out. But if they do seem to pass through an object, I try to overlap them so that there's no gap at all. Were they passing through like the middle of it? Like, for example, right here, like straight through the middle? Or was it more like on an edge or corner? I need to add these variables. So that is called original health value and then new health value. And apply. All right, right through the middle, but it was a maze type map. Yeah, I could see a maze being a little too long. The default pathfinding does seem to give up relatively early. It seems like if it would just keep looking, it would find the path, of course, but it does seem to give up. Okay, we don't need this. We need a different light, actually. I thought I had this before. Why don't I have this anymore? What have I done? Let's put that in there. And put that there. I need a new light for this, I suppose. So let me add... Actually, before I do that, also I'm going to delete these other objects here. Don't need these. Wish I had a focus slider for myself. Increase focus. Enemy objects. Light, enemy fire. I do have a light. Okay. There we go. Now, where else do I call that? Had to do checkpoints, reach one path and then to the next. Yeah, the checkpoints are best, I think, for just kind of hard coding exactly where you want them to go. It's at the sacrifice of the kind of real-time kind of customization, but it'll get the job done. But again, I would try tweaking those cell size values under the pathfinding extension. See if that helps. You know, you can move the starting point around a little bit, move the walls around a little bit, play with the cell size. I think I found that a larger cell size did better, which, let me double check, see if I can find a different one here. Behavior. See, it was not on that thing, it was on here. Behavior. I guess I'm currently using a cell width of 3 by 3, so my virtual grid is 3 by 3 for pathfinding. That works for me so far. Okay, getting there. Reset this timer. Don't need this timer. Let's copy this. Put this here. Just about to get the fire guys spawning again. Okay, that's that. And right here. And here. Flame on! Dude, did you like the Deadpool movie? AKA the latest Wolverine movie? Oh, you haven't seen it yet? It's pretty funny, if that's your thing. It's good. So I guess let me follow up that question with, were you following the Wolverine movies and or the Deadpool movies before that? If you haven't been following those, this one probably wouldn't make any sense at all. Just Deadpool? Yeah. I mean, the premise is that Deadpool goes and he finds a variant Wolverine from a different universe out in the multiverse. And they team up. But it's pretty funny. There's a lot of inside jokes, lots of Easter eggs. It's not to be taken very seriously, but it's entertaining. The Wolverine fans all love it because he finally wears the yellow suit and everything. Okay, let's give this a shot. So that's number 8. We'll see what kind of bugs I run into here, of course. Let me collapse some of these. Okay, we'll do random and range 8 to 8, which is not so random after all. And yeah, here we go. Well, I know all films are doing the multiverse thing. Honestly, it's because they can get away with doing weird things. So specifically, they needed to use the multiverse in this movie because Wolverine literally died, spoiler alert, in one of the other movies. It's not much of a spoiler because he dies in the comic books, but he always comes back in some way, shape, or form. So the way for Deadpool to go out and team up with Wolverine now is to go get a different Wolverine. So the only way to do that, they decided, was multiverse. Magic pill. Alright, here are these guys, but the light does not seem to be sticking to them. Let me fix that real quick. Stick the light to the enemy fire. Why is it not? Alright, where do I create the light? Oh, okay. I'm creating the wrong kind of light. That would explain it. Let's try that again. That also explains why it was green. Green flames. Green flame on. Oh, and the reason I mentioned that movie when you said flame on is because, well, what's his name? Johnny from the Fantastic Four, the fire guy, makes an appearance and he says flame on. That's why I sparked that question. All right, here's the fire guys. Yeah, they are functioning, and so I'm gonna have these guys, they're not gonna be that fast. That's kind of ridiculously fast, I think. But they will eventually be able to set nearby towers on fire, which I think they might already be able to. Oh, yeah, they're already able to. Let's deconstruct that. So put a tower down, and now if the I think it's currently just, holy crap, that's fast. If there are any flame enemies on the scene at any given time, the tower is just automatically on fire. So I do need to adjust that, but the mechanic is in the game. Those were some fast fire guys. All right. So before I hopped off, because I said I would do this earlier. Yeah, they're speedy, all right. I said I would do this, so I'm gonna pull it up real quick. Just the that match 3 game that I got the template for. So this is the game. I'll just run it real quick. Let me see if I can. Hold on. They have it popping up over here. We do not want full screen. There we go. Okay, so hopefully this isn't too loud. Let me bring that down. So this is what you get. They actually didn't have a quit button, so I had to add a quit button so I could get back out of it. It was full screen with no quit button. Alt F4 was my only solution. So if I go to play, it's pretty much what you would expect for a match 3. These things fill in, and their style, yeah, it's a good template. Their style is to only check rows and columns, not like actually that's not true at all. So I'll show you. So if I drag this purple one over, it was kind of an L shape. So it didn't give me any credit for the L shape. It only gave me credit for the 3. So that's pretty standard. And if you try to move something that doesn't work, they go right back. You can see when I click because there's a red circle. So I click and drag. And then, yeah, that's pretty straightforward. They've got some bombs. So I'll show you what it looks like under the hood. Quit. And game events. Yeah, that's like Candy Crush. It's just here in gdevelop. If you go to the shop, where is it here? There's a block merge on there as well. I guess that's what you were talking about earlier. If I go to match 3, it's right here for purchase. It's only like $7, but I had credits anyway. Yeah, that $99 is wild. Because the reality is, having the mechanics is not going to get you a game that sells. You need a game that stands out. And then also that is fun. So it needs to stand out and be fun. Just having the mechanics is not going to make you your money back. But just real quick, since Lost in Code, you were asking about match 3s. I don't have the answers for you, but I do agree that it's kind of a lot of work to get these checks going. So here's what they're doing. Right here on the scene, we have a sprite right here in the middle. It's called a slot. So it's called slot 1, slot 2, slot 3. And so it looks like the far left column is all slot 1s, and then slot 2, slot 3, slot 4 as you go to the right. And they use that. They're also using, I think they're creating some stuff when the game creates. So they're creating some borders. But the core mechanic that you were asking about was more like, how are they checking basically when the, well, whatever you want to call them, the candies or whatever needs to be matched. The matching objects, how are they checking for the matches? Oh, there are candies here. So here is where that actually is. So they say, for example, for the red, so you can see how they've broken it out. It's all by color. Red, green, yellow, purple, aqua. They're also doing other checks to see like when no candies are spawning or falling, and then they're checking what's inside of every slot. So they have all these checks going on. For example, candy is on the floor. If slot checker is in collision with candies, then pick candies that is nearest to the slot checker center. And then if this variable slot of the slot checker is equal to slot 1, it changes this other variable. And so it's very manual. Yeah, it's rows and columns. And it's very manual. So kind of like you were alluding to earlier, there's not like a really great extension for this. They're just doing a lot of very granular checks. Lots of variables, lots of checks, it's lots of repetition. So you could do this yourself eventually. It's just a lot of it. Like there's no magic, in other words. So yeah, it's the same as how you were doing it, which was a little bit demotivating, it sounds like, and I don't blame you. So if I go into up here, because that was just to see what was inside of every slot, but up here is where you try to match, and so I'll open that up for you as well. So there's a T-bomb, or rather there's a T-shape completion, an L-shape match, which I don't think was actually even working. And then, so for column 1 specifically though, so it's broken down by red and then by column, so column 1. And you can see, like, for example, right here, I'll stop scrolling so you can actually look at something. But if candy is on the floor, its X and Y position is the X and Y position of the candy tells which candy exactly to pick. Then we use the slot that's nearest to the candy, and the point is inside the wall. Sorry, I'm trying to read their notes. It's not the clearest. Then we create the particles at candy position and set its Z order, and then delete the picked wall and candy, and we set the Boolean of the picked slot back to false. So it's a whole bunch of this kind of behavior. Yeah, it does seem pretty long. Seems like the kind of thing that getting a template for is the correct approach, as long as it's the kind of mechanic that you're looking for. But again, if you're going to try to make any changes here, you would have to make a lot of manual changes. Like if you wanted a slightly different behavior in the mechanics, you're going to have to do a lot of rewriting. So, I mean, at best, if I were going to do this, I would just swap the assets, but it'd be hard to come in and make it like, for example, if you want to do a match 5 instead of just a match 3 or 4 or something like that, I think you're going to have a lot more work to do. All right, let's get back out of that. So that's that match 3 in a nutshell. I mean, if there's anything else in there that you want to look at, just let me know. Oops. But yeah, that's that. So much change, may as well do it yourself. Exactly, yeah. That's what I'm thinking as well. But yeah, no problem. All right, boys. I'm gonna hop off, but I should be back on tomorrow. Tomorrow, I usually stream Thursdays as my regular stream night, and then if I stream any other time throughout the week, that's kind of extra. So tonight was extra. So Happy New Year's. Hope you all have a great one, and yeah, thanks for hopping on the stream. I'll see you in Discord, but in the meantime, y'all have a great night. And whoever out there is watching and whatever you're working on, I hope you have fewer bugs than I do. So I'll catch you later. Thanks for watching.